Good evening, everyone. I'm looking for an approval of the agenda. Moved by Councillor Olson, seconded by Councillor Donovan. On the question, please vote now. Motion carried 6-0. I just want to acknowledge that the Deputy Mayor is absent this evening. And the treaty acknowledgement and moment of reflection, please, Councillor Bigger.
Thank you, Your Worship. We would like to respectfully acknowledge that Quispamsis exists on the traditional territory of the Wolastoqiyik, Maliseet, and Micmac people, whose ancestors, along with the Passamaquoddy tribes, signed peace and friendship treaties with the British Crown in the 1700s. We would like to take this moment to pay respect to the elders, past and present, and the descendants of this traditional territory. And may we remind ourselves of the important work that we have before us tonight. May we make good decisions without prejudice or bias, and always in the best interests of our community, which we are here to serve.
Thank you, Councillor Bigger. I have a few remarks this evening. First of all, I'd like to say Happy New Year to everyone and welcome to everyone who is here this evening on this rather snowy night. This is our first meeting of Quispamsis Town Council for 2024. So Happy New Year to everyone. I hope that you had a safe and happy holiday season with friends and loved ones and welcomed the new year with optimism and excitement. We have been dealing with some challenging weather at times over the past weeks, and today is an example of that. Mother Nature has thrown everything at us, from snow to rain, freezing rain, ice pellets, and high winds, and often more than one of those things at one time. So through it all, our town of Quispamsis road crews have been top-notch. I'd like to thank them on behalf of council for all the work that they do with the snowplows, salt and sand, and clearing our roads and sidewalks to help keep us all safe. If you happen to see a member of our road crews out on their routes, please be sure that they have enough room in order to work safely and efficiently. Our holiday dreamland is sadly coming to a close. Some of the lights will remain in use throughout the spring. I'd like to thank everyone who visited the Arts and Culture Park during the last couple of months. And thank you to our Parks Department and our Director of Community Services, Ms. Burton-Dixon, for the hard work and dedication in making this year's Dreamland one to remember. And just a reminder that our outdoor skating rink at the Arts and Culture Park is open every day from 10 a.m. till 10 p.m., weather permitting. Also, a reminder that the Fundy Regional Service Commission has registered for an environmental impact assessment to increase the height of Crane Mountain landfill for capacity augmentation and life extension. So in an effort to optimize the efficient use of the landfill and maximize the available airspace, the FRSC is proposing to increase the height of municipal solid waste placed in the existing waste containment cells, as well as future waste containment cells. So a public information session is scheduled for this Thursday, January the 18th, beginning with a drop-in open house at 6 p.m. at the St. Matthew's Worship Site, $45 Drive in St. John. Presentations and question and answer session will follow. Fundy Winter Fest is a 6-week-long event from February the 1st to March 10th, where people celebrate and embrace winter as an opportunity to connect across generations, communities, and classes and cultures. The 6 communities of Quispamsis, Rossay, Hampton, St. John, Grand Bay, Westfield, and Fundy St. Martin's welcome you to participate in winter initiatives that empower everyone, including our most vulnerable residents, to be active this winter. Find your hats and mitts. You won't want to miss out on this Greater St. John winter experience. Using the hashtag FundyWinterFest to share all of your winter adventures. So thank you for listening to that. I am looking for a disclosure of interests. Seeing that there are none. Presentations. This evening we have a public presentation regarding 157 Palmerbrook Road, a parcel of land, Andrew Harrigan and Brad Lockhart, 669155 New Brunswick, Inc., rezoning application, rural to light industrial, to extend the light industrial zoning to the entire 157 Palmerbrook Road property. And if we have Mr. Harrigan here, I believe. Welcome. Please just give your name for the clerk.
Andrew Harrigan.
And you may give any further information that you like that you might want to add to what was in our package, or certainly take any questions. Thank you.
I can maybe add a little bit of context. At this location, we operate Palmerbrook Storage, self-storage facility. We operate in-motion storage, which is the mobile container self-storage kind of operation. And we have a couple of kind of shipping depots where we do, basically offloading, onloading packages for a couple of shipping companies. So we've been operating that for about 7 or 8 years. It's experienced, a fair amount of growth in the last 3 or 4. So a couple of years ago, we acquired a piece of property at the rear of the site, really for expansion purposes. And so the site plan that was laid out in the package shows a bit of additional yard space, an extension of a fenced-in yard area, but probably 2/3 of the new parcel will be left as buffer zone. So it's about roughly 1/3 of the parcel that will actually be developing for expanded use of that facility. I think the rest was well covered in the staff report, so if there are any other questions or comments, happy to.
I will open the floor to council. Councillor Bigger.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a question on the process. Perhaps Ms. Jarvis could answer this for me. The Wawa permit that needs to be applied for, as I see outlined here, related to, trying to protect water courses and so on. I just want to confirm, I see that has to be applied for before any development can take place along the lines of this plan. But I just wonder, do you have any more information on sort of how fulfilled that has to be before this can begin? Like the permit is applied for, and is there a process that has to be fulfilled for the provincial government to come and review the situation and give their okay before we go ahead, or is it, you see what I mean? As opposed to the application for the permit is applied for, some development begins, and then at some point, maybe that has to get stayed. And that, I'm just trying to understand the process there a little better. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bigger. I will turn it over to our planning technologist, Ms. Jarvis, please.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to Councillor Bigger. The process is that the Wawa permit, we'd actually need to receive that in hand before any permits were issued for any development. Does that answer your question? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. There is a motion that goes with this presentation. Councillor Donovan.
Thank you. I would move that council refer the rezoning application for 157 Palmerbrook Road to the February 20th, 2024 regular meeting to allow for the 30-day time period for public input.
It's been moved by Councillor Donovan, seconded by Councillor Thompson on the question. Seeing there are none, please vote now. Motion carried 6-0. Thank you for being here this evening. Have a safe drive home. Item number 6. A, public hearings. Andrew Dunn, President, 697-800 NB Corp., and Queen Construction 160 Pettingill Road, request to amend Section 59 CPA Development Agreement. Request to change configuration of dwelling units, resulting in a total reduction of 6 units from 76 units to 70 units. And we have Councillor Thompson.
Yes, your worship, I move that Mr. Dunn's application re the reconfiguration of the building design for 160 Pettingill Road be referred to the planning department.
Councillor Thompson, I'm sorry, you're going to have to retract that. We have a public hearing process that has to be read first. And Kathy. Who's that? Yep. Okay.
This one?
Yes. Yep. Excuse me, thank you. So I'd like to acknowledge that we have been requested and plan to consider amending municipal plan number 054 and/or zoning bylaws number 038, or number 38, sorry. Number 2, this day has been set and is a place for a public hearing. Number 3, we note that anyone wishing to speak for or against the proposed bylaw amendment will be heard and considered by council, and each person wishing to speak will approach the podium, identify themselves, and have 5 minutes of time to address council.
These are the steps.
Yes. So now we would ask that planning staff provide the executive summary. And that, I believe, was, we've already got that in our package, but Jennifer, if you'd like to go through that. So I'll go to our planning technologist, Ms. Jarvis.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, before the committee is the request to amend a developer's agreement, a Section 59 development agreement, for the reconfiguration of the lot in question, removing the single-family and duplex dwellings and replacing them with multi-family or multi-unit dwellings. And part of the amendment is for this public hearing, after which council can by resolution decide to or not to amend the agreement. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Ms. Jarvis. With that, we can have a presentation by the proponent. Are you okay with what you've already delivered? So those wishing to speak for or against the proposal shall be given the opportunity to be heard. I will ask 3 times if anyone further wishes to speak for or against the proposed amendments. If you'd like to speak for or against the proposed amendment, please come forward and give your name for the clerk.
Good evening. My name's Neil London. I live at 56 Heritage Way. It's the home at the very end of Heritage Way that the new development's going to overlook.
Would you, Neil, would you just spell your last name, please, for the clerk?
London, like the city, London. I understand really that there's nothing I can really say or do that's going to change this because you've already agreed to allow Mr. Dunn to build there. I guess my concern is the same as all the residents down there. They just did not feel that they wanted to come up and speak. Is, as everybody here is probably aware, there's been a lot of issues with the drain off at the lots that are there. So my concern, or our concern, is a couple things. The impact it's going to have on our lots from the drain off. So is Mr. Dunn going to make sure that everything is not running down onto our property? The Department of Environment and Department of Natural Resources have been down there. They've questioned me different times over the last year because of the development at Heritage Way. If anybody were to go down there this summer during a rainstorm, you would see the huge amount of silt coming off the property. That's all coming out of springs from Mr. Dunn's property. And so with the development of these apartments or multi-unit buildings, just want to stress that hopefully everybody's aware of the impact it has on our land. Also, there's a number of us down there that are having issues now with our well water, not enough well water, so putting in 72 units on the hill above us, that's a bit of a concern. And then my concern, which I spoke to last time, is the big pond, and I know it's a dry pond, but the big pond that's going to be adjacent to my property. So I spent over $800,000 to build a new home down there with expecting to have other homes above me. Now I'm going to have 72 multi-housing units, which I don't understand what that means. Is that going to be apartments? Is it going to be rental units? Is it going to be condos? I'm not quite sure on that. But the only other thing I ask is, will Mr. Dunn or the developer, if it's him and his partner, have to follow the guidelines that CN and the town has put in place before the buildings are built? I know that CN had sent on the last council meeting that I was at, there was a list of, I think, 4 pages of requirements. I just ask that the council and whoever does that make sure those are followed so that our property is not impacted, because I really don't want to see my home impacted by stuff not getting done. We're seeing it now at Heritage down in that subdivision, stuff that's still not done that the developer was supposed to do, and I'm just asking that the council will just make sure that everything's followed when that happens.
Thank you very much, Mr. London.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak for or against the proposed amendment? Is there anyone else who would like to speak for or against the proposed amendment? Third and final time, is there anyone else who would like to speak for or against the proposed amendment? Seeing there are none, would someone please address the questions that were just put forward by Mr. London? Ms. Jarvis.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you, I can advise the owner of Heritage Way that planning and engineering staff have been working with the developers in the Heritage Way area. We are aware of the drainage concerns, and we have been working with the developer to bring that all into compliance as the way it should be. In terms of following the recommendations of the CN and Department of Environment, I can also assure Council and the residents that in the recent months, our engineering department has some very good members involved that are eager and are on development sites regularly, and we have some very keen members that are paying very close attention and making sure that the rules are followed. The well water, I have not been made aware of any issues there, so I would like to get more information from you if I could. I can get you my card. And the attenuation pond, that has been stamped and approved by an engineer who's willing to put their name on the line. So staff is comfortable with the proposed attenuation pond. I'm open to any questions.
Thank you. I would just like to acknowledge that PAC, the Planning Advisory Committee, also submitted their views. I will now turn to council. You may ask questions at this point in time. If there are any questions, to direct to either the developer or to our engineering department. Councillor Bigger, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Not sure exactly who this question is for, so I guess I'll pose it and we'll just see who jumps up with great enthusiasm to answer. Just in terms of the sort of the structural changes that are proposed, moving from the more of the multi-unit apartment building style to these, sort of sixplexes and so on. To the question of runoff of water and whatnot, I wonder, is one design more favorable than another? I take the mayor's comments that PAC has returned their, sort of favorable report on the project, and so I take that into account for sure. But I just wonder if there's any comment to be made along that line, or if it's really inconsequential, one design versus the other. And then the only other thing that I would say, and I'll just throw this in the same. It's a different question, but I'll just throw this in at the same time, and then I'll be quiet. Is I see that we're reducing the number of units that will be made available for housing, and we approved this with a sense of expanding housing units and wanting, as we are all, to leverage the opportunity to see sort of the next evolution of housing in our town. We've all kind of identified that we're generally moving away from, or at least we're moving into more of a mixed housing environment. So I'm a little disappointed to see that this revised plan reduces, even if it's only by a few units, it reduces the number of units of housing. And I think that's too bad, but it's probably not enough reason to push back against this amendment, but I just want to point that out. So anyway, back to the first and sort of more pressing thing about the issue of runoff of water. I just wonder, are we adding to that potential problem by virtue of this redesign? And perhaps someone in the planning department could speak to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bigger. I'll turn again to Ms. Jarvis, planning technologist.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through to Councillor Bigger. The stormwater management plan will be reviewed just to ensure that it still is able to meet the demands of the new layout of the buildings. I don't expect that there will be huge changes to the stormwater management plan. The impervious materials will still be the same amount, basically, that are covering the lot. So, but it will be reviewed to ensure that it is still meets the demand. Thank you.
Thank you. And I will just remove myself from the chair. Councillor Thompson, if you don't mind, I have a question for Ms. Jarvis as well. Given that we are having the 100-year storms every 6 or 7 months, it seems, are we also providing for that expansion of water drainage in our new developments as we're moving forward, just to ensure that these sorts of things are being viewed from sort of up above and making sure that there's some remediation there if anything needs to be done to expand those waterways, so, or the collection of water, or the downhill flow of water. So thank you, Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Your Worship, for the question. My thoughts have escaped me.
I'll just help you. The question was regarding the increase in the volume of water that we've had over the past couple of years, and whether or not we are preparing for that as we move forward.
So I can advise you that we do currently request a 1 in 100 year storm plus 20%. We've added 20% in the last few years in response to the expanding and more intensive storms that we are seeing. These subdivision specs plans through the engineering department are being reviewed, and that is where we would see sort of those requirements change. So I haven't, full disclosure, I haven't reviewed that yet, but I will, with the intent behind, with your question in mind. I'm not sure what the future plan is for, but I can tell you today that we are adding 20% on to the requirement.
Thank you for that response. And finally, item number 7, a motion may be presented and voted upon at this time. Councillor Donovan.
Thank you. I would move that Mr. Dunn's application regarding the reconfiguration of the building design for 160 Pettingill Road be referred to the planning department and the town solicitor to finalize the amending section 59 CPA development agreement for council's consideration of approval.
It's been moved by Councillor Donovan, seconded by Councillor Olson on the question. Seeing there are none, please vote now. Motion carried 6-0. Thank you very much. Shanix Development Limited, 20 Millennium Drive, application to amend Section 39 CPA Development Agreement, proposed YMCA daycare. And this evening we have with us Heather Hansen, Vice President of Strategy and Brand, Shanix Incorporated, and Adrian Boudreau of Greater St. John YMCA. Please come forward. Please give your names for the clerk.
My name is Heather Hansen. I'm with Shanix Incorporated, Vice President of Strategy and Brand.
Welcome.
Hi, Adrian Boudreau, the YMCA.
Thank you. Welcome.
Good evening, Your Worship and Council and staff. It's really nice to be here. And I'm joined, actually, I think by some of you might know Paul Harrigan, my colleague, General Manager of Parkland in the Valley, and Terry Wagner is our Sales Manager and has done a lot of community work in the region as well. So I'm just here to talk a little bit about what's happening on our lands, and I am going to turn it over to Adrian to really get into the interesting parts of this application. But we're before you to talk about, I guess if we can go to the next slide, Parkland in the Valley, which is located nearby. Many of you may know this. We offer a continuum of services for seniors, from independent seniors living their life to the fullest, with a few supports from us, to assisted living or special care, as is known here in the province of New Brunswick, and as well as licensed long-term care. So we have about 10 acres of land which Parkland in the Valley currently sits on, but in recent years we did acquire the commercial property next door, which was known as the former church. Just so folks know, I think that's on the next slide, if we can show an image that Paul took. There it is. So many of you are probably familiar with this. Now the bottom floor has a tenant and the top floor is empty. So I think Adrian and I first met in 2021. The YMCA of Greater St. John reached out to us because we were actually adding on to a campus that we have in St. John. We were building a nursing home. And Adrian and her organization have been actively looking for kind of compatible spaces for childcare centers. So this initiated our conversation, if you just want to go to the next slide, that we started to explore other lands. And this property in Quispamsis, which is vacant, it's about 5,500 square feet, came into our view as a possible really nice fit for our two organizations, but also to increase childcare spaces. So we know that there is a need in the community, and that's why we have approached, along with applications that Adrian will be looking after. It does require discretionary use on the current zoning, which is institutional. So I'll hand it over to Adrian to maybe talk a little bit about the children and the activities there.
Thank you. Welcome, Adrian.
Thank you. If we could go to the next slide. So as Heather said, I think we can all agree that childcare is needed in the Greater St. John area, so we're very excited about this partnership. A little bit about the YMCA. We have been in the community celebrating 170 years this year, and have been providing childcare since 1986. So we currently have 5 childcare centers within Greater St. John and 13 after-school locations. Most of them are located in schools within the Greater St. John area. And in total, we serve 750 children a day. We also have a wait list of about 800 children that are waiting to get in to programs that we're offering. So with the Shanix, we're very excited to partner with them. The space that we're looking at, we're hopeful that it will provide care for up to 69 children. We're looking at serving children ages 12 months to 5 years, so it would be strictly childcare, not after school. We would be open from 7:30 to 6 p.m. This would also create 20 positions for employment within the area as well. And so within childcare at the Y, we do provide lunch and snacks every day. That's included in the fee that parents pay to come to childcare. We have an app called We Markable. That's a YMCA-developed app where parents can get pictures and updates on their children daily and see what they're up to and their developmental milestones. And we also offer financial assistance. Hopefully most of you are aware of the YMCA and the Strong Communities Foundation that we have. So anyone that's not able to afford childcare, has difficulty paying after government subsidies, the YMCA fundraises this year. Our goal was 2023, 650,000 to ensure that everyone is available to come to programs at the Y. And the other thing that we're excited about with this partnership is that it would be more than just a childcare. So we're really looking at intergenerational programs here. We've seen this done with other YMCAs across the country, and it's been very successful. So whether it's programs, activities that we're doing with the residents of Shanx, or creating volunteer opportunities for them to come over and do activities with the children, residents that might not have grandchildren that live close by, and for children that might not have grandparents that are near them, to be able to form these relationships. So we're excited about the childcare, but we're also excited about the partnership as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation this evening. And certainly when we look at the need of childcare in our region even, there certainly is a need there. So this sounds like a good marriage of the two, of providing a space, and the intergenerational aspect of it certainly is appealing on all the grounds that you've just mentioned. So Councillor Bigger, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I just wanted to hearken the same thing. I just think it's a marvelous concept. I think it's wonderful to see the building on Millennium get a second life upstairs. And I can't imagine a better opportunity, really, frankly, at this point for it. I appreciate your enthusiasm to see it happen. And I agree with what the mayor has said, and I think what just about anybody who hears about this would think, which is it's just such a wonderful thing to see a mingling of generations like that. And I think that is of incredible and almost immeasurable value. So thank you very much. It's not just a simple matter of the fact that there are needs related to childcare spaces, which is certainly a very keenly felt need. But beyond that, I think there's a real value add here, and I appreciate the enthusiasm you guys bring to it and the vision you have for it. So I'm prepared to bring forward a motion. We have to go through the process of amendment.
We're just going to do the hearing first, and then we'll go to you for your motion.
Well, then I'll just say bully for you for the moment then.
Thank you. So once again, we have been requested and plan to consider amending the municipal plan number 054 or zoning bylaw number 038. This day has been set for, and place has been set for a public hearing. We will note that anyone wishing to speak for or against the proposed bylaw amendment will be heard and considered by council. Each person wishing to speak will come to the podium, identify themselves, and they will have 5 minutes in timeline to address council. So we've had planning staff address this through an executive summary, which we have in our packages. We've had a presentation by our proponents. So those wishing now to speak for or against the proposal shall be given the opportunity to be heard. I will ask 3 times, and then we will move forward from there. Is there anyone present wishing to speak for or against the proposed amendment? Is there anyone here wishing to speak for or against the proposed amendment? Third and final time, is there anyone here wishing to speak for or against the proposed amendment? Seeing there are none, I will go back to council and ask if there, and we will note that PAC's written reviews were noted, and that the proponent has already given a description of what the intent is. I don't know if there's anything further that you wanted to add in some summation. I will turn to council members for any further comments or questions. And barring that, I will go to Councillor Bigger to make his motion. Okay, before we do that, Councillor Olson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you for your presentation. I'm very interested and very supportive. I had one question. I was wondering, does it have an elevator in that building?
No, it is a two-story. There is no elevator. There is a main entrance stairwell, and there are two exteriors at the back and the side of the building as well.
No, I guess I was just a little bit concerned with the seniors having to go up the stairs,
Yes,
you know, to interact.
yes. And there's a range of ability, I think, in the community that we would have the appropriate number of seniors being able to, who can navigate the stairs, visit. But we actually see a lot of opportunity to take the children into our campus as well. There's a high interest in the bowling alley there, I'm heard already from the children, so, yeah.
Yeah. No, thank you very much.
Thank you, welcome.
Bowling alley, popcorn maker, and movie theater.
That's right, they're all those things.
Councillor Donovan.
Thank you. I don't have a question, just a comment. I think this is really lovely and it's certainly needed in our community. I love the idea, and I actually was a nursing home kid growing up. My mother worked in a nursing home, and I was always there constantly. And it certainly was a big part of my growing up, and it certainly helped me develop some new skills and make some new friends along the way. So you have my full support. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you, Councillor Donovan. Councillor Bigger, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm back. So I would move that council approve the amendment to the development agreement to include the use of a daycare at 20 Millennium Drive, PID 173690, subject to the following terms and conditions, that the amended development agreement be registered against the property with Service New Brunswick upon execution of the agreement.
It's been moved by Councillor Bigger and seconded by Councillor Olson on the question. Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Your Worship, and I'm sorry, I should have asked this question later. I'm in full support, but I guess my question would be for the future, because I know, I'm guessing this is a short term for the church, because I know I'm expecting future expansion. Is this something that you're looking at incorporating into future expansions to have daycares actually in there, in the building itself?
Yeah,
Thanks.
so thank you for that question, and I did expect it, actually. I was thinking that you would be wondering what we are doing with the lands, because we have the 10 acres and plus about another 4 with that, with the church lands. But as we've been discussing and had many discussions leading into the lease, that if we do find the occasion to expand, and this would be in a couple of fronts, if the area, this primary market area, demands more seniors housing, we would consider expanding in lifestyle apartments, and there's certainly land to do that, following all the development agreement, of course, conditions. Or if the province has a need or a desire to increase the number of licensed long-term care beds in southern New Brunswick in this region, that would be another occasion for us to consider development earlier than later. We're not aware of the province doing that, but we would certainly, of course, notify the town if, in fact, we were going to consider that, because we would have to have some of those development agreements acknowledged by council and planning, of course, if that were to be the case. But in those discussions, of course, the YMCA has been wondering about that too. So we have been talking, anecdotally, I guess, that we would look to build in and design a childcare space into that development at the time, if it were to occur. So I think it's really, all these things are open and on the table, but we certainly don't want to do anything without a thoughtful approach to how we manage our partnership for the future. So, yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Miller. Councillor Olson, your light is flashing, but I think that was from previous. On the question, seeing there are no further questions or comments, please vote now. Motion carried, 6-0. Thank you, Mr. Harrigan, Mr. Wagner, Heather and Adrian. Thank you for being here this evening. Sorry, the last names just sort of slipped, so. Good night. Thank you. Item number 7, minutes of previous meeting, December 19th, 2023, regular meeting. Councillor Donovan.
Thank you. I'd move that those minutes be approved as prepared, please.
Moved by Please vote now. Motion carried 6-0. Thank you. Item number 8, unfinished business. Councillor Carrie Luck, AT report, Menands Cove Road, active transportation plan, bike accessible shoulder. Staff report from Director of Engineering and Works, Mr. Loge. I see a motion there. I don't see any lights for any discussion. Councillor Luck, please.
I guess I was hoping to hear from Mr. Loge in terms of just an update on, what exactly kind of took place and where we're heading. I know that he wrote it in the report, but it's nice to hear. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Luck. Over to Director of Engineering and Works, Mr. Loge.
Thank you, Your Worship. The report is relatively straightforward. Our concern when we did the initial designs for the street was that as we got further into the Menands Cove Road, the street grades and the road width would prohibit us from doing the similar design that we had introduced at the front end of the Menands Cove Road. So we looked at an area where we could transition from a wide road right-of-way asphalt width to a narrower one. In doing so, we looked at options. One of the ones that we had prepared our initial estimates on was bringing all the AT traffic to one side of the road. We stepped back at the request of council, looked at, with our consultants, the full length of the Menands Cove Road. There are still some areas that are going to be restricted in width. To say that it's going to be a future problem, I guess, is one way to look at it. But we felt that in doing so, we can address the request of council to say, okay, can we accommodate 2 bicycle lanes, one on either side, and still address some of the concerns that staff had with respect to encroaching on residents' properties, storm management, things of that nature. We re-examined the tax standards, and if we go to the minimum tax standard, but also take a little bit off of our own shoulder width on our street design, we can accommodate bicycle lanes, narrow bicycle lanes on both sides of the Menands Cove Road for the majority of the street. What it means in some areas, as we move further down the road, we'll have to incorporate storm sewer or reduce speed limits. So that'll be obviously an increase in the cost of the project at that time. But by bringing it into place now, we can plan for that in the future and then deal with it at that time when the estimates are being prepared. As far as this current budget year, the constraint will be when we put the design out to tender, what will the unit prices be? So we anticipate that the budget that's been prepared by staff and approved by council should be sufficient to cover the limits that we've identified in this year's plan, with the main concern being what the actual unit prices will be when they come out for the tender. So as with all the streets, really they only exist on paper when we're doing the budget. We've just started our design and tender process now. So we're preparing those documents as we move forward. We're hoping that the size of our street capital program, the 5.6 million that council's identified, should be enough to warrant some unit price benefit. Then we see the tenders come out. So we're waiting until April. We'll get the asphalt hot mix base rates out of Ontario in April. We use that to establish our revised budget estimates or revised tender estimates before we go to tender. We're better positioned to see where we sit with it for that point. But as far as this particular street, one of the concerns, like I said, was making sure we had a comprehensive look at it. And what it does as well is it gives us an ability to look at the volume of pedestrian traffic that we'll see on this particular roadway. That was one of the things that, in discussions with our staff and with Englobe Group, looking at the level of traffic from an AT perspective that we can anticipate seeing on the street is relatively minor. And we felt that we could incorporate the 2 lanes on either side. So it's the recommendation that we've had for council this evening, Your Worship.
Thank you, Mr. Loge. Anything further to that? Seeing there are none, There is a recommendation, a motion. Councillor Donovan.
Thank you. I would move that town staff continue design preparations for the 2024 street capital program for the proposed street upgrades on the Means Cove Road based on 2 bicycle accessible shoulders.
It's been moved by Councillor Donovan, seconded by Councillor Miller. On the question. Seeing there are none, please vote now. Motion carried 6-0. On to item number 9, correspondence. Seeing there is none.
Next one, Councillor Locke, was not at the public hearing.
Thank you, Councillor Locke. So Councillor Locke is leaving because she wasn't at the public hearing. Item number 10, bylaws. Rezoning application 29 Pettingill Road, Pettingill Dental Neighborhood Commercial to Central Commercial. This is consideration of third and final reading to be read in its entirety. Neighborhood Commercial to Central Commercial, allowable number of employees working at dental clinic. Next in queue, we'll go to Councillor Bigger, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm prepared to make the motion and read the bylaw if you'd need me to do that.
Go ahead.
Perhaps I'll read the bylaw first. What would the clerk prefer? Is that good? Okay, amendment number 038-47 to zoning bylaw number 038, a bylaw of the municipality of Quispamsis respecting the Quispamsis zoning bylaw. Be it enacted by the council of the town of Quispamsis that zoning bylaw number 038, a bylaw of the municipality of Quispamsis respecting zoning pursuant to the Community Planning Act of New Brunswick is hereby amended as follows. By rezoning the following property from neighborhood commercial to central commercial. A parcel of land identified as 29 Pettingill Road with PID number 302-07096 and as shown on the attached Schedule A, and said parcel of land to be shown on the zoning bylaw number 038 map as central commercial, read first December 5, 2023, read second time December 5th, 2023, read third time January 16th, 2024. And so I guess with that read, I'll move that third and final reading be given, which has been given, to zoning bylaw amendment number 038-47, a bylaw of the municipality of Quispamsis, respecting the Quispamsis zoning bylaw to rezone a parcel of land identified as 29 Pettingill Road with PID numbers 302-07096 from neighborhood commercial to central commercial.
Thank you, Councillor Bigger. It's been moved by Councillor Bigger and seconded by Councillor Miller. On the question. Councillor Olson.
No.
Please vote now. Motion carried 5-0. If someone would like to ask Councillor Luck back. Thank you. Item number 11, new business. UMNB Urban Caucus, letters from President Andrew Black, UMNB, and associated documentation. Staff report from Acting CAO, Mr. Kennedy. Mr. Kennedy, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. As referenced in the staff report, New Brunswick has 3 municipal associations, the Union of Municipalities of New Brunswick, the Cities Association of New Brunswick, and l'Association francophone des municipalités du Nouveau-Brunswick. The Cities Association and UMNB have basically merged, and as part of that, UMNB has talked about the creation of an urban municipal caucus, which would keep the 8 cities and add the 2 largest towns, which is Riverview and Quispamsis. It's not necessarily the 10 largest municipalities in New Brunswick, because there are a few towns that are larger population-wise than Campbellton, but it's sort of the largest communities and regional hubs, and Campbellton is considered a regional hub in that context. So many members of our council have been active members of UMNB for a long time, and we had a strong showing at the UMNB annual conference in Fredericton in late November, where this was bandied about as well. So we like the idea of having Quispamsis with a voice at a bigger table, which would provide a little more clout in terms of municipal advocacy with the provincial government, Your Worship.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy, for that background. Councillor Donovan.
Thank you, and I do think this is fantastic. I think it gives us gives Quispamsis a seat at the table, and it's certainly a seat that we deserve. I would move that Quispamsis join the newly created Union of Municipality of New Brunswick's Urban Municipal Caucus under the terms identified in the UMNB proposal.
It's been moved by Councillor Donovan. Councillor Thompson.
Second.
It's been moved by Councillor Donovan, seconded by Councillor Thompson. On the question, please. Councillor Olson.
I have a lot of questions and concerns about this amalgamation of associations. In my opinion, the Town of Quispamsis is a member of UMNB, and if the Cities of New Brunswick Association want to join UMNB, which some of them have already, that's fine, but keep one body. I think that the urban cities group is dividing up the overall impact of UMNB, and I'm quite happy with the service that we negotiated at just the last AGM a few months ago, where we negotiated a review of the cost that the town would be paying, but also in the position of supporting the other 80 plus member municipalities. And I think that if we are attached to a larger cities organization, I think that we will be at a disadvantage, because they're going to be working with I'm really not quite sure. I've read it 2 or 3 ways. I think they're working within UMNB as a subcommittee of some sort, or sub organization, but they're proposing separate meetings for the cities group, and I really don't meet at that particular stage. I think that the UMNB, as we know it now, would be rudderless and just out on their own. I just don't like the idea of us being lumped in with the big cities, because then I think we become a small fish in a big sea, and I don't know how we're going to be treated any better than we are right now, and I have a concern for the fractionating of the overall UMNB structure that we've supported and developed over a great number of years that we've been part of it all. So at the very, very least, I would propose that we have an information session where we get more details on just how these things all going to operate, and you know, they want to use some of the services that UMNB have, but they also want to work in a silo by themselves, and I don't think that that's being that's not illustrating the best method of everyone benefiting. We've reduced the number of municipalities for in the province last year down to 89, I think, and we've had during that time we've had some city members join UMNB, but there's still 3 or 4 major ones that aren't members. But now they're suggesting that they join a new group of cities and larger communities that would work on their own, come up with their own policies and everything else, and I think it's splitting up the whole organization. I don't really support it.
Thank you, Councillor Olson. Councillor Bigger, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I tend to concur with a lot of what Councillor Olson has just said. I do agree with Councillor Donovan like objectively, I think that unity is good, and I think that I suppose in one sense I would rather, without really understanding completely how this would work or how it would look, as Councillor Olson points out, there's a lot of information we don't really have currently on this, even in terms of what the raison d'etre is as pertains to like bi-monthly unique meetings for the municipal caucus and so on. But unity, I think, is a really great idea, speaking with a singular voice on behalf of the many residents of the province. As Councillor Olson points out, we just went through the amalgamation of many, many communities around the province just last year. And I can say that it doesn't take a lot of brain energy to think back to UMNB this past fall, the conference in Fredericton, and the uncertainty that still lingers in many of those communities about how they are sort of being stood up and how they are going to function going forward. And so this seems like another, it's an important discussion, I think, most likely, but it seems like a lot changing very fast. I don't think we really have all the information in hand to understand the value of this. I don't really know what we get out of this. I wonder if we're the only large so-called municipality in the province that only has water coverage on 15% of our residents, maybe. Are we really one of the largest municipalities in the province that way? Anyway, that doesn't really have anything to do with anything. But I'm not sure that becoming one of the small guys at the big table is, to put it in really very basic terms, I don't know what's the advantage to us for this? And to take on the extra administrative tasks related to bi-monthly meetings. What about the dues for this? We have what the dues will be for this year. It's a 65 cent per resident charge, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. But where does that go going forward? Do we have any insight about that? Or is that something that we're just going to figure out as we go along? So I would concur with Councillor Olson that perhaps we should ask Mr. Murphy to come and provide us with some better insight and information about this. I think that it's, as I say, I generally think that working with the larger municipalities, I don't prefer the idea of operating as complete separate entities, but I'm not sure that this is quite the sort of coming together and linking arms that I would like to see. And I really don't quite get what the upside for Quispamsis is in joining this coalition or whatever. So I have some concerns about it as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bigger. Councillor Donovan, please.
Thank you. And I have no stake in the fire for this. I just think it's interesting. The one thing I will say is this reminds me a whole lot of, many of us have been to FCM, and in FCM they have what is known as the Big City Mayors Caucuses, and they have plenty of different sub caucuses within their organization. And basically, from what I understand, at FCM, totally different group but similar structure, I assume, is with the Big City Mayors Caucus at FCM. It's the mayors and the councils of the biggest cities in Canada coming together because they share many of the same issues. They're generally roughly the same sizes. And they, for the most part, a lot of them have the same asks. So I would assume that with the urban municipal caucus that we're going to, it would be somewhere along the same lines. I think it would be a good idea. It seems, just from the staff report, it seems like many other communities have signed on happily. And again, I don't think we should rush into something, blindfolded, but I certainly do not want to see us left behind while, all these other cities that are our size or smaller are discussing and working for what's best for themselves. I don't want to be left behind and work with, and there's nothing wrong with working with smaller communities, but I would like to work with communities our size because I know that we all share the same issue. So I don't know if that made sense, but I do think it would be maybe prudent to get a little bit more information, but I don't think we should definitely cast this aside and just forget about it, but thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Luck, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have to concur with Councillor Olson and Councillor Bigger. I guess I am a bit concerned. Our fees are going to go up again just after kind of advocating for them to be lowered at our last meeting. And while I see a lot of value in synergy, I also feel like Quispamsis, even though, we're close to 19,000 in population, we are still rural. And I think a lot of our issues are different than some of the urban locations. They're dealing with a whole other kettle of fish sometimes. And I just worry that sometimes, our voices have the potential to get lost when we're looking at rural issues. Like Councillor Bigger mentioned, one of our big issues is making sure more people get water. St. John, Moncton, Fredericton, they're not worried about those things. So I think some of our goals are different, and not that I'm against it. I guess I would like to make the motion that we have someone come and give us an opportunity to ask some questions and get a better understanding before we vote on it. So that's those are my comments.
Thank you, Councillor Luck. Councillor Olson, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just looking at a few lines below that chart that shows the large communities together, it says membership dues will go towards supporting advocacy initiatives of the UMNB, which are focused on realizing benefit for all members. Well, why does that have to have a separate group? We're already doing that. So there's some duplications that are going to be taking place here, where there's going to have to be probably additional members, staff in that, maybe different work areas created or established, expansion of this and expansion of that. And Moncton, St. John, Fredericton, Dieppe is large, Riverview is like us, but Edmundston, they're large cities, and they've got a multitude of responsibilities that sometimes are a little bit more than what we have here in Quispamsis. And so I've just got some real concerns with leaving UMNB as we know it now, and putting our allegiance with this new larger group, which I don't think is really going to pay the dividends that some people might think there would be. So I would support having Dan Murphy or whoever, somebody from UMNB, come in and do a presentation that is not going to be rushed through in 10 minutes at a council meeting. We'll have to do maybe a separate gathering or whatever. But this is a little bit more to it than we're just being presented here now. And to be honest, it's been referenced that it's been going on for the last few months and that, but maybe I've been missing a lot of the chatter with that. But I haven't been exposed to that much of the decision making on it.
Thank you, Councillor Olson. Councillor Bigger, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Was Councillor Luck's comment a motion? I believe it was a motion.
There's already a motion.
There's a motion on the table by Councillor Donovan.
Okay, right. Okay, so I guess.
Just 1 second, please, Councillor Donovan. Okay, we'll go back to Councillor Donovan first. Councillor.
Thank you. Obviously, there's been quite a bit of discussion. Not everybody's on the same page. So I will amend my motion to be that staff reach out to the Union of Municipalities of New Brunswick and their executive director, Dan Murphy, and potentially their president, Andrew Black, and see if they may be able to come to a future council meeting or a special meeting and answer any questions that council may have regarding this urban municipal caucus. Thanks.
Is that okay with the seconder? That was seconded previously by? By Beth, yes, by Counselor Thompson. And you're okay with that, Beth? Okay. Madam Clerk, would you like to read the new motion, and then I'll go to Counselor Miller.
Yes, Your Worship, through you. Staff reach out to Mr. Dan Murphy of UMNB to attend a future council meeting to make presentation on the UMNB Urban Caucus proposal and answer any questions council may have.
Thank you. Counselor Miller.
Thank you, Worship, and thank you to everybody with their comments. I guess for me, I just need to know, I'm okay with being in a big group, but I need to know what's best for us, and I don't really know what is yet. So I think it's great to be in a bigger group. You can have more clout, but if they're going for something that we're not going for, then it doesn't help. But if you're the big guy in the small pond and you still have no clout with the province, then where do we go? And so I'd rather be the one that has the most clout. Because if we're in a bigger group and they're supporting what we are looking for, then we have a better chance of getting it. If we're in the smaller group, like it or not, it's not going to happen as much. So yes, just clarity on what the variance, the pros and cons, and some of it they may not tell us, but the rest we have to figure out ourselves. Thanks.
Thank you, Counselor Miller. Counselor Bigger.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to say too that I'm certain that the efforts being made by the executive, at UMN and their staff, because they added some staff this year at UMNB, are to just try to create the best possible advantage, for everybody representing a municipality in the province. I'm sure of that. But I think about what was referenced about dues, and when we had the discussion around that at the AGM at UMNB, what was brought forward by the UMNB executive was a charging structure that was met with great disapproval by a great amount of the body of people there. And on the fly, it had to be basically dismantled right there in the meeting. So I don't think that was an intention by UMNB to try to get one over on anybody or hoodwink anyone or sneak anything by us, but it wasn't the right fit for us. That's all this is. We just need to understand what the right fit for us is, And as Councillor Miller just pointed out very aptly, we need to know what's best for us. We represent, first and foremost, our residents here in Quispamsis, and we've got lots to be concerned about in our own town. And so, I just wanted to say that I'm sure that, Mr. Murphy will come before us, or Mr. Black, whoever it might be, and bring us some really useful information. But I think that in the same way that, in my mind, in the same way that dues structure had to be kind of overhauled right there on the ballroom floor, in Fredericton, I think this needs to just slow down a little bit, and we need to just have a little better information. So,
Thank you. The motion is on the table. There are no further discussion or questions. Please vote now. So the new motion, Madam Clerk.
Through you, Your Worship. Moved by Councillor Donovan, seconded by Councillor Thompson. Staff reach out to Mr. Dan Murphy of UMNB to attend a future council meeting to make presentation on the UMNB Urban Caucus proposal and answer any questions council may have.
So you have it. It's not been uploaded yet. There it is.
You're all happy with it?
Yeah, we're happy now.
Are you ready to vote? Seeing there are no questions, please vote now. Councillor Donovan. He's in favor. Motion carried 6-0. Moving on to reports. It's been moved by Councillor Olson, seconded by Councillor Miller. On the question. Seeing there are none, please vote now. Motion carried 6-0. Item number 13, business arising from Committee of the Whole.
Yes, Your Worship, the Development Officer requires the ratification of the motion that was made in Committee of the Whole earlier this evening. If you refresh.
Yes. Councillor Miller, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I move the council authorize the sale of the portion of the Cedar Grove Drive LPP abutting 65 Cedar Grove Drive, so this information can be provided to the property owners prior to submission of a final subdivision plan to council for assent.
Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Miller, seconded by Councillor Bigger. On the question. There are none. Please vote now. Motion carried 6-0. Okay. And motion to adjourn. Councillor Olson, seconded by Councillor Donovan. On the question. There are none. Please vote now. Motion carried 6-0. Drive safely home, everyone. Have a good night.
Yeah, I didn't ask for it. You can go every year, so I should get it just a yeah. They said you can do it, but that's it. Right now they're about three.
It's like a grade.
Just because they're about 60% cheaper than I, so these are the films. And they're rechargeable. Yeah, they don't have it here. The audio.